Hello, my fellow Hulk fans. It's Jerry Rasco here with you again today, and we are going to be spending some time together looking at Tales to Astonish number 65. So, Tales to Astonish number 65 features the ongoing story of the Incredible Hulk. It is a split book if you're new to the channel or you're not familiar with Tales to Astonish. If you haven't, we do have a playlist here on the channel. Think about maybe going back and checking out some of those issues to see where the Hulk fits in with this book and how it works. But it's a split story. The first half of the book is a Giant Man and the Wasp story, and then the second half is the Incredible Hulk. So at this point, again, still really fleshing out the Hulk, who the character is, how the character works, and kind of dialing it in. And we're getting closer. Every issue gets us a little bit closer to kind of the Hulk that we know. So this is a continuation of the ongoing story, and I'm very excited to share it with you. I do want to remind everybody that when we get to 1,000 subscribers here on the channel, you can win this piece of Incredible Hulk art, as well as this piece of Amazing Spider-Man art for free. There is no purchase necessary. You do not even need to pay for shipping. All you have to do is be a subscriber when we reach 1,000 subscribers, and be the person that's chosen at random. I do want to point out that we will be having some other new series coming up on the channel. We're going to be looking at another very iconic Marvel series with an issue number 1, and there's going to be a free artwork giveaway associated with that one, and then I'm working on another one as well. So we're going to get up to 4 different comic series here very soon, and all you have to do to win some free art is be a subscriber when we hit 1,000. So if you're already subscribed, thank you very much. If you're not, think about clicking that button for free, and of course, please share out the channel. If you're enjoying this review of these Silver Age comics, go ahead and share with folks so they can join us as well. That said, let's jump over to Tales to Astonish 65 and look at it together. Here is the cover to Tales to Astonish number 65. It's another Jack Kirby cover. The big thing here, of course, is that Giant Man is getting a new costume, which fits into the story and, you know, that kind of stuff. So, one, he's Giant Man, so obviously he's going to be very large on the cover. But because this is a real... usually a new costume for a character is a major point, where sometimes it's a key issue. It's something that people look for in collecting. You want that first appearance of that new costume. So a kind of a bigger deal, hence why he's featured more prominently on the cover. And then we have the Hulk over here. I like the Hulk piece. The damage, he appears, it's kind of clear. You can tell it's, you know, there's tanks. These look like pieces from a tank, so he's tearing a tank apart. You've got the nice foreshortening in perspective of the tank shell being shot at him. The only piece that took me a little bit, which I didn't realize, let's zoom in so you can see it as well. It took me a few views to realize he's hiding behind like a snowbank, I guess. I'm assuming that's what this is. He mentioned the blurb here mentions that he's behind the Iron Curtain, so we assume that this is Russia, though they don't come out and say Russia. So you would assume snow, hence the light blue coloring. But why he's hiding behind a snowbank but still being shot at is weird to me. I don't think we need the snowbank piece there. It's not something that features in with the story. We don't actually see this view. So anyway, kind of interesting to see that's where it was chosen, but overall I like the Hulk. He looks great. Nice job there, nice art, nice inking. The whole thing's very good. So let's jump into the Hulk story. So we're skipping through the Ant-Man and the Wasp story because we're here to see the Hulk, and we jump in right as the story from the previous issue ends. So, as I always let everybody know as we go through these issues, this is a scanned PDF copy of the comic. In 2007, Marvel Comics went through. They got their hands on copies of all these characters, whether it was the Spider-Man, Hulk, Captain America, X-Men, Avengers, Iron Man, etc., and scanned the original books in. So this is a scanned page from the original book. This is not a recreation. This is not digital recolored. This is not a facsimile edition. This is what the original edition looked like from the early 60s. So that's what we're looking at here. We jump right into the splash page. The art team or the creative team is a little bit different. So we've changed inkers for this issue. So we'll be interested to see how that affects things. We've got Stan Lee is still the writer. Steve Ditko is still the penciler, but as opposed to inking himself, which he did on most of his Spider-Man run, here Dick Ayers is inking. And Dick Ayers, we've talked about him before because we talked about him in the very early Hulk issues. When Jack Kirby was penciling the series, Dick Ayers is one of Jack Kirby's early inking partners. So we talked about him a little bit and what he, his career path. So if you want to know more about Dick Ayers, head back to I think like Hulk 2, 3, 4, 2 through 5, 3 through 5, those early Hulk issues, and we covered Dick Ayers there. So we jump on in, and this is what was happening. The leaders, humanoids, which are sort of these crazy Stretch Armstrong mechanical beings that the leader has created, are attacking the Hulk. Originally, the leader wanted a nuclear device. This is a nuclear test facility for the U.S. military. But once he sees the Hulk, he realizes he wants to capture the Hulk because the two of them have some sort of a gamma connection. The leader has figured that out. So the Hulk can't beat these things, and they are swarming him. And that's where we ended the previous issue, and now this is where we start off. One thing that is different, though, usually in the past issues, 2 issues where we saw the humanoids, they're just pink. Again, they're like pink erasers or silly putty or something. For whatever reason, the colorist has decided to put pants on them. So now they've got this darker purple lower half. I don't know why. It's not necessary, but honestly, it's not a big deal because we only see them in these couple of pages, and that's it. We're moving on. I like the Hulk here. I like he's large and bulky, which is as he should be. The head is big. The features are kind of monstrous, even though it's a smaller image. But I really do like this depiction of the Hulk. I think it looks pretty good. As we go to the next page, I do not like it. This is not a great face. This is not good. What the artists are trying to achieve together is an upshot. So an upshot is when, if you had an actor standing there and you took your camera and you look straight at them and then you lower that camera down so it is looking up at the figure, that is an upshot. And that's what we're trying to accomplish here, but it doesn't work very well. And that's just because of the features. The nose is very strange. They're trying to show the thickness of the lip with this indication here. So if you looked up at your lip, you'd actually see it has an edge and then it has an inside edge. There's a thickness to your lip. That's what they're trying to do here, but they don't really pull it off. The nose should be shorter. The eyes are kind of wonky and offset. The fists are very nice. The hands are drawn very, very well. I think that's good. The hair. So this is a coloring thing. So if you're going to draw the Hulk's hair and it's green, if possible, you want to use a different tone of green than his skin, because if you just sort of glance over, it looks like he's balding. It looks like this hair is sort of coming out of a lower part of his hairline, and there's this sort of empty spot there. So that's one of the downsides to doing that. You either have to do just little highlights at the very top and just black out the rest of his hair, or you've got to use a different shade of green. So that is not a great Hulk face. The upshot angle of a human face is one of the harder angles you can draw the human head at. So I applaud him for trying, but it just was not successful. Oh, I zoomed out when actually we're going to zoom back in because there's something to look at panel number 2, and that is this tangent. So you've got these soldiers have reached the shore. They were dispatched once they knew the Hulk was there. And so the idea is they want to capture the Hulk. So this guy's like, hey, we're throwing grenades. That's the only thing that's going to stop him is, trying to blow him up. So it's nice. You have this hand in the foreground with a grenade. That's terrific. It's the same color as the gun. And I'm assuming that this part here is the magazine for this gun potentially, but because it's all the same color and all sort of have the same, angular shapes, it's hard to tell. I'm assuming this is not part of the pin or spoon mechanism for the grenade, but again, it all blends together. So these lines all work as one, and it's hard to tell what separates one from the other. So these are tangents you want to avoid, and the coloring doesn't help. If you have things that are lined up together that are the same color, you have to be very, very careful. So I would have put a gap. I've maybe not even drawn the magazine. You don't have to. This guy doesn't have one on his particular gun. I get it, it's a different kind of gun, but again, who cares? For one panel, not a big deal. You want that separation. So they start throwing grenades, and the Hulk just keeps fighting. He doesn't care. This is nice. I really like this punch. The twist of the arm is very, very good. So one of the things to remember with things like joints and musculature and stuff, we're not, if you're drawing the human form or humanoid form, we're not very many straight lines. Things curve. Your bones have curvatures to them. Your muscles bulge. So as he's punching through, I like this sort of turn of the forearm there with the wrist. You could just draw it straight across, but I like this twist. It shows the motion, the angle of the fist coming down. Overall, it's really, really nice on a small drawing, so I like that. The grenades blow up the cliff, and the humanoids and the Hulk all fall into the water. And this part I thought was weird. So they mentioned that the Hulk, so he knows he's about to change into Banner. That's how we left it. Like, he could feel he's starting to change back into Banner. So he needs to get away so that nobody sees him change. And the narration here says he swims. He savagely propels himself away. But the way the figure looks, you can't tell. And it's in this weird sort of motion. It's not a straight line. When I think of swimming, you think of, like, how would you depict Aquaman or Submariner if they were swimming really fast? You'd probably show them, again, foreshortening with the hands coming at you with this sort of swimming motion, the water rushing away from them. You could even do it from the other perspective, but this figure almost looks more like it's swept away in a current, hence the, like, irregular motion, as opposed to swimming away. And it's just one of those things where maybe that was the original intention. Maybe Steve Ditko drew it as if the Hulk was, in his mind, he was being swept away by a current, and then Stan just changed it in the dialogue and the narration. That happened all the time, so it's hard to say. The humanoids leave, and nobody can find the Hulk. And again, it says that he's swimming away with this weird kind of circular, weird pattern. And here again, this is the closest we've got to swimming, but he's sort of floundering. I mean, you don't swim with one leg bent forward like you're running. You're kicking. One arm is doing this, one arm is doing that. It's almost, again, it feels more like he's being swept away in a current than he's swimming away. But he transforms into Banner, and I do like the face on drowning Banner. His lips pursed together to hold his breath, and the cheeks bulged out is very, very nice. The big eyes, great anatomy on the figure. The hand is nice. The shading is very good. Overall, I've been pretty impressed with the inking. One of the things I want to say about that, I mentioned it in another recent video that I just did, but I was referring to letterers. The best compliment you can give a letterer, and in this case, I think one of the best compliments I can give an inker, is that I don't notice them. If you're looking for it, you should be able to spot things and go, ooh, that's a really nice technique. Ooh, I like that shadow. Ooh, that's nice. But the best thing is you're just in the story and you don't even think about it. I'm not thinking about the lettering. I'm not thinking about the inking. It just feels good. There's nothing that takes me out of the story. The lighting's consistent. So in this case so far, there's nothing that I've been like, oh, that's some bad inking. So far the pairing is working out pretty well. Um, one thing that I've noticed is, again, speaking of the inking, is the lines seem to be very solid and very smooth. This is one of the few examples so far where we, in Banner here, as he's being slapped by this ship's captain, there's a little bit of feathered rendering. So feathering is when you're, little hash or hatch mark lines. You're taking a dark area and feathering out that darkness, to blend from dark to light. We see a little bit of that here. There's a little bit on Talbot's cheek to go, right? So the light source is very strong. We can tell that both from the coloring and the shading, and going to darker. So it's light to dark. So the more you build up the lines, the darker it is. And so that's a nice little shade there, but there's not a lot of it. Again, just real quick, going back through, I guess there's maybe more than I thought, but it's clean, and a very solid inking style so far. This I want to point out. So the leader here, we've never seen a drawing of the leader like this. It's very odd. We know that he has black hair. We've seen it. Sometimes it's drawn sort of thin and sparse. Other times it's been a thick black hair. Here, because again, the coloring is weird. You've drawn the shadow of where the hairline would be coming up off his head, but then it's colored the same green as his skin. So it's visually, it doesn't read as a separate hair on top. And then his face looks like he's been stung by bees. It's much more swollen through like the cheeks and stuff. Now I know he has a big head, but the rest of from the sort of eyebrows down is supposed to be normal features. I would argue possibly, again, 100% speculation. This is just me, conspiracy theory, talking out loud. I would argue that maybe this is a paste up of a redraw of this panel, and it's not Steve Ditko. This would happen where somebody would draw something that wasn't right or didn't fit the dialogue balloons, right, that they wanted to put in. There's too much art and it's going to cover up the face and stuff. So sometimes when things had to be redrawn, or somebody spilled ink on it, or there's all kinds of things that would happen that would make somebody go, hey, I got to redraw this panel. And if Steve Ditko had already turned in the page and they needed that panel redrawn, sometimes they just went to a staffer and said, hey, redraw this. And they would literally draw it to scale on another piece of paper, cut out that paper, and paste it over the top of the panel. Again, I just don't see anything in this face that reads as Steve Ditko to me. None of the line work, the facial features, I'm guessing it's a redraw and a paste up. The only way you would know that is if you had the original page, and either that over the years the glue will fall off and that paste up, the piece over that was redrawn falls off, and you see the original underneath, and we can see the difference. Or sometimes people will peel off the paste up if they want to see what that original art was like. So anyway, that's the only way you'd know, is if somebody could find this original page. Banner is caught by, we're assuming it's the Russians. We say that because the submarine that picks them up has the hammer and sickle. So they never flat out say it, I don't think. They just sort of continue to reference communists, but I don't think they actually say Russia. And then, of course, they know who he is, so they want him to work for them. This is a great example in these couple pages of how good Steve Ditko was at drawing unique faces and characters, even for people that don't spend a lot of time in the book. So you've got this this leader of this communist weapons testing facility, and he is very clearly drawn. He obviously, if you've seen the movie, to me, and this is why I say they never say it's Russia. They also don't say it's China. But this guy reminds me a lot of the bad guy from, I think it's Enter the Dragon, right? He kind of looks like that guy. The hair, very similar, the dark eyebrows. So maybe, I don't know. Um, but then you've got these other scientists that they've captured that are working to develop weapons. And this guy's a geophysicist who everybody thought was dead. And you just have this great face. It's a very caricature face. Old, the big bushy eyebrows, the long folds of the cheek, and the sort of jowl, if you will, larger ears. Again, this guy literally is one panel, and then his eye in another panel. That's it. This guy over here appears in a few more. He's this disgruntled guy who's like, I've had enough, and he snaps and gets beat up by the guards. So just really unique faces. There's so many artists that do sort of one or two male faces, one or two female faces. Steve Ditko was drawing really unique people, and whether he was pulling them from real life, maybe he saw a guy that kind of looked like this, or actors or things like that. But he was definitely being creative, even with background figures, and that's really nice. One thing I did not care for here, I thought, again, a little weird. And this one might be one of the first times where I'm like, I don't know about this inking. There's a little, again, one of the things I said that I thought is so nice. If you go to the other page, the lines are very clear, very clean, very crisp. We don't have a lot of feathering. We don't need it. Then you come over to Banner, and it's all sort of feathering to define all these shapes, and it doesn't work so good for me. And then also, so this guy's smoking through the whole thing, and now I get what they're trying to do. It's sort of trying to be dramatic of this. He's holding this cigarette, and the smoke is covering half his face to see how he's two-faced. He's duplicitous, I think is the term. But I want that smoke rising up. Having it sort of billow at sort of the shape of his face, again, is sort of a version of a tangent. The curve of his head comes around and goes right into the smoke, so it flattens it all out. The smoke doesn't look like it's in front of him anymore. It looks like it's just making up part of the shape. I'd like this to be billowing up further, and then you don't have to worry about it. Still hiding part of his face, but acting more like smoke as opposed to just this weird blob. Banner, of course, will not work for the communists, and they stick him in a little cell block here, all cramped up. And this is the first time he thinks of the Hulk. So this is so crazy to me. Like, the instant, you can't tell me the instant on the submarine, you're not like, if I could Hulk out, I could bust through this submarine, sink this submarine, and swim off, and I'll be fine. He lets himself get captured, get all the way to here, get locked in this box, literally thinking like, well, I guess they're, I'm not going to work for them, so eventually they'll probably just kill me, and then I won't have to worry about the Hulk. And he's like, wait a minute, if I get mad and turn into the Hulk, I can get out of here. Again, silly. I like the Hulk busting through the wall, not bad. Again, solid, thick, bulky Hulk, which is good. Pretty monstrous face, not bad. I'd love a much bigger panel to show that energy of the Hulk breaking through something. I mean, he's supposed to be bigger than life. But part of the problem you have when you're doing a half a book is you've got a lot less real estate to work in. So you've got to go with a lot of panels per page. Of course, is a weapons testing place. They have all kinds of weapons. They have what is this? They have I don't think they say what this one is. We have too many weapons. Powerful gun. So we don't know what it is, but it's a gun that's shooting at him. And then he disrupts that one. So then they use an evaporay blaster. And then they use a vaporizer. So there's all kinds of weird stuff. And I don't know if it's all coming from the same gun in its different settings or what the deal is. Or if it's actually different guns. But again, I like the lack of the restraint in hatching, feathering lines, little bit here, little bit there, not a lot, because the figure is so small. If you do it when the figure is very small like this, it ends up looking hairy, or the lines are too big. It doesn't work. So the restraint here on the inking is very good. I like that quite a bit. I think it works. Now, the Hulk leaps out of the way. So basically, he leaps up through floors, up out of the building, and then comes crashing down behind them on top of the gun. So for here, this idea of showing the cutaway of the building, so you can see that he's going through floors, boom, 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 and then crashing down through the same, floors, but in a different spot. That works great. I think that's terrific. Really creative idea, because otherwise you'd have to use a lot of panels to show him busting through stuff and then busting back down. So it's a nice use of space and pacing. And then he comes down, lands on the machine, boom, on the evapo ray. So now they've got another weapon, and it vaporizes things. And so they're shooting at the Hulk, and he uses his thunderclap to produce a shockwave to knock everybody out of the way. Not the way I would necessarily draw the thunderclap. We've seen it a few times. If he's doing it and he's just going like this with his fingers, it's not much of a clap. What he needs to be doing is more of that like this. So I would have done more like this with his hands together. Boom. I think we all understand this is more of that clap than this. So that there's a big difference there. And this doing the exact same thing, showing the cutaway and the people flying away and the gun being blasted, knocked through a wall, does not work for me. There's no reason to show the cutaway. Just show the machine coming out through the wall. You make a hole, the machine is coming blasting through the wall, and in the background you see the Hulk. Again, the difficulty is small panels. That's something that probably needs a quarter of the page at least to really show, but you could easily do it. But not if you have 6+ panels per page. Remember, these are small. I say it all the time, when you have a lot of this grid work, the pages are 11 by 17, and then you're drawing on 10 1/4 by 15 area. And so that means these panels are probably about 5 by 5. So not very big to include what I wanted to do in this panel, but I don't think that the cutaway idea works either. So everybody's been knocked down. The Hulk's a little injured, but he'll be okay. I like this. This is, again, kind of hit or miss. This is a good Hulk. Shaggy hair, big square head, bulky body. Like, that's a good depiction of the Hulk, I think, is pretty nice. This face, the monstrous features as a kind of almost over the shoulder or profile, works. However, the jaw doesn't go back far enough. So his head is very small. If you follow the curve of that head and neck, it would be very oddly shaped. The Hulk's face should come out further. That jaw should be longer and thicker. But I like the heavy eyebrows, the shorter nose, the long upper lip. We're starting to dial in kind of what the Hulk is. Here, too small. Now, I know the Hulk is not, in this iteration, he's not as big as he becomes. The Hulk ends up becoming more like 7-8 feet tall and, 800-900 pounds. That's not what he is at this iteration, but he probably shouldn't be staring eye to eye with some rando scientist that's like, hey, I got an ointment for your boo-boo. Nice of him to help out, since the Hulk helped set him free, so they're on the same side, but they shouldn't be looking eye to eye. And then here, where you're at the table, you see, again, this is better. He's a little bigger. He's eating. One thing to note, I didn't really talk about it yet, of the, because we're looking at the art, but the actual dialogue of the Hulk, this is a great iteration where we're seeing a dumber Hulk than we've seen before. So he says, no more talk, don't need nothing, I'm the Hulk. So he's still not talking in third person, like Hulk smash, Hulk do this, but he's definitely not nearly as smart as we saw in the first few issues of the Hulk. So we're, again, dialing in these details of the characters. And then, of course, you've got this guy's not going to give up. He's called for tank reinforcements. And then he's got some sort of a weapon, this proton gun, that he's going to try to see what he can do first. And that is the Hulk story. So, interesting left turn there. But we'll head over to the desk and wrap things up. So yeah, like I was saying, kind of a weird left turn. If you followed the issue before, we saw, he's thinking about changing. The military's arriving at this test facility. He's got this unbeatable horde of humanoids all around him. How is he going to get out of it? And they basically just wrote him out of the corner. He doesn't get out of it. The army shows up and knocks them all into the ocean. The leader's humanoids leave. They don't, all of a sudden, the original plan of we're going there to retrieve a nuclear weapon, that's out the window. All he cares about now is capturing the Hulk. The Hulk's out of the way. The military don't see him change. And now we've just spun into this weird news story where, of all things, he gets picked up by a Russian submarine. And you're like, where are they? Like, where is this island? Why is it that close to Russia where a Russian submarine would be around? The whole thing is weird in terms of plot in this turn. It's obvious that it was like, we're sort of stuck. We'll just write him out of this pickle, if you will, in the beginning. We're not going to resolve how he beats the humanoids. How does he stop the leader from getting the nuclear device? We're not even going to deal with it. We're just going to wash that away and move into this new story. So very odd. But there's some good stuff. There's some bad stuff. I give this issue a 6 out of 10. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big fan of where I wanted to see that resolution. I wanted to see the conclusion, and we sort of got robbed, I think, of how things were going to wrap up from the previous issue. The Dick Ayers inking team is interesting. We've seen him with Jack Kirby. Now we see him with Steve Ditko. Pretty good. I liked it. I'd say I probably like it a little more than George Russo's, who was the inker in the prior issues. We'll see how long Dick Ayers hangs around, or if we move to somebody else here in the near future. But again, 6 out of 10 for this issue. Not bad, not great, kind of just above average. But we'll see. Now he's in Russia. We've got tanks coming. We've got crazy weapons. Let's see what happens to Bruce and the Hulk moving down the road. And I hope you come back to join me here next week when we do that on the channel and we look at even more Incredible Hulk. Thank you.